Bitcoin and the altcoins are now pushing back towards previous highs, meaning that right now we find ourselves at the most opportune moment in the entire crypto market cycle. A moment where we shift from disbelief into belief. Right now is a moment that we've started to see a lot of big altcoins like Sui, Virtual's Protocol, pumping back towards the upside. But because we are still transitioning towards belief, there are a lot of altcoins that are yet to see significant upside that will break through and see incredible bull markets ahead. These sit mainly in the mid to small cap range, and in this video I'm going to talk about which altcoins I would personally be focusing towards to see some of the biggest gains in the bull market ahead, ones that are still at pretty good entry prices. So if you want to know exactly what you should be looking at right now and where we're going to be heading over the next few days and weeks, hit the like button. Let's get into today's video. Now, if you caught my video yesterday talking about why the M2 money supply model is still intact and why the Bitcoin dominance is coming down, then you will understand that we are moving into a very bright phase, a very exciting phase in the entire crypto market. But it takes a little bit of time for that greed to get restored, for the belief of people to get back into the system, because some people are still waiting for dips to be able to enter in and are not really sure about what's driving these markets. That means that the fear and greed index sits around 70. And it also means that a lot of mid to small cap coins really aren't performing that well right now, when really they should be flying. So before we jump in and look at the altcoins, let's have a quick look at where we are. You see, Bitcoin is now back at $103,800. And potentially, very, very shortly, you're going to find itself back at previous highs. And there's a good reason why Bitcoin can continue to rally without seeing any significant pullbacks. First is the liquidation heat map. Right now, we're seeing that there is a lot of liquidity sat up here, where various people who went short around these areas are hoping for a significant dump, thinking that the bull market was over. But eventually, Bitcoin will make its way up into there, and all of those short positions will get liquidated, and sell orders will get flipped into buy orders. But the most bullish thing right now that tells me that we're not really expecting to see a significant pullback, potentially anytime soon, is the funding rate heat map. You see, this shows the amount of people who are betting long and using leverage to buy into the markets. And as you can see, this is still pretty negative, mostly being green and blue right now, indicating that we're not really expecting to see significant shakeout pullbacks anytime soon. So with funding rates like this, the M2 money supply literally pumping every single day, we can expect to see Bitcoin pumping higher and higher. And as soon as it hits those all-time highs, guess what? It's going to be all over the news. Everyone who got shaken out over the last few months will be straight back into the markets trying to get back into crypto. And they will be adding fuel to the fire on top of the coins that we've already bought, because we were early, we were smart about things. Now, obviously, if you've been subscribed to the House of Crypto over the past few months, then you would have caught these lows, or roughly around these lows, back in March and April time, and a lot of the altcoins you would have got in at rock bottom prices. But obviously, if you're newer to crypto, I appreciate moves like this for Bitcoin were brutal for altcoins, and it's a pretty scary time to be in the game. But it's important to realize something. If you lost money over the past few months, or your portfolio is down significantly, it's because you were buying into greed up here. Okay, you were buying into altcoins that are pumped like crazy. Guess what happened? Then the market starts to push towards the downside, and then you get wrecked. This is because you were buying into the hype and excitement of certain altcoins that were seeing the most significant upside. So don't make that same mistake right now. If you're rushing back into the markets right now, and you're again buying altcoins that are pumping like crazy, then you deserve to get wrecked, because it means you didn't learn your lesson over this. It's like being a kid who walks over and goes and puts their fingers on the stove, and then walks back 2 weeks later and does the exact same thing. Hopefully, we're going to be a bit smarter than that this time. Now, as we look across to Banter Bubbles, we can see which of these coins we probably should be avoiding. Virtual's Protocol, Pengu, Whiff, Brett. You know, not because they're bad coins or anything. In fact, they're really good coins. That's probably why they're pumping. Well, apart from these, which are obviously meme coins, which you know how I feel about, but whatever. They're pumping. Don't get involved in coins that have already pumped, because you've missed out on this, which is a 4x move in just the last month. There will be other coins that will see these pumps, but they come slightly later on. Because we move down the path to altcoin season, Bitcoin pumps, Ethereum pumps, and then the altcoins tend to go crazy slightly later on. So by avoiding FOMOing in and finding good, strong projects that are yet to see some of these pumps, we can see some really good upside, and we can still be early, despite the fact that we're not early for Bitcoin, Virtuals, Sui, etc. So me personally, what am I looking to do right now? Well, I go across to my crypto portfolio, and because I have income that's coming in most days right now, then I kind of tend to focus, where am I going to put my money? Because I still think we're really early. We still haven't seen the major altcoin push. And that's because while Bitcoin is at $104,000, we have barely seen a dip in the Bitcoin dominance, which has only gone down about 3% from highs. This is what the altcoin season looked like back in 2021, when Bitcoin dominance fell by 40%, when Bitcoin was valued at around $60,000 to $70,000. Imagine now with Bitcoin at $104,000, just how much more money is in the system to flood into the altcoins eventually. Just a couple of days ago, we saw that pump across the altcoins that was caused by this. Just imagine the pump that we're going to see when it dumps down here. So looking at my portfolio, which is on Crypto Bubbles, and I've shown you plenty of times before, we can see that a lot of altcoins that I'm holding have been having a pretty good time over the past month. A lot of these, however, are still lower down than they were previously, with the exception of Sui, my biggest holding, which is almost back at highs. And if you caught my video on Sui just about 6 weeks ago or so, then you were probably able to get in at rock bottom prices, while most people on that video were just saying that crypto was over and it was a scam. Lo and behold, it turned round and now we're good again. Anyway, looking across here, we can see some of the top performers. Tars AI having a good one. There are others on here that haven't really been seeing potentially much upside though, that I think probably deserve to see some bigger growth because of what they're building. So when I come to my portfolio on any given day, where am I looking to deploy my funds? To coins like Quai, to coins like Metade, Aptos, Peak even, Bricken, because some of these coins saw massive sell-offs, and yes, they're back up 65%, but they were down about 90-95% at low. Many of you are looking at larger caps like XRP, etc. And while yes, XRP and other large caps will continue higher, you're not really going to see massive multiples from here because since those lows, they've recovered really nicely, up 51%, maybe a little bit more. And in fact, XRP from highs only came down around 52%. In fact, it finds itself down 28% from highs right now. In contrast, coins like Quai Network is down 75% on highs, and just a couple of days ago was down 84%. So where do we look? Well, this is Dogecoin, and I just want to show you the pattern. This isn't a coin that I'm necessarily suggesting to get into right now. I just want to show you this pattern. This was from last year. We go up, we go sideways, we go down, and then we print this rounded base, and then we rally up. Look what's happened again. We go up, we come down, we put the rounded base in, and then we start to go up. I made a video about this yesterday on the School of Crypto. If you missed it, go and check it out because it talks about how to find these perfect entries on different coins. Right now, there's a pretty good one on Doge. I don't think they're necessarily going to see massive upside because it's already a massive coin. But look, you can apply this chart pattern to almost every coin and it will eventually do the same thing. So if you can find your entries in and around the 2 and 3, you're going to be pretty happy. Okay, so without further ado, let's start jumping into some of these projects because otherwise you're never going to get your weekend and we're just going to keep rambling on. First things first, Quai Network currently is a market cap of $39.5 million. And before we get into Quai, I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with you because I made a video yesterday that a lot of people watched, so thank you for your support. But I mentioned in that video that I was going to look into more detail on Quai Network and a couple of others on today's video. And instead of going out there and doing your research and waiting for this video and whatever else, rushed off and you all bought it, which is why it pumped like crazy like this. Many people got absolutely burned back here because you weren't doing research, you weren't being patient, looking for good entries, etc. You've just rushed and done the exact same thing. Remember fingers on the stove? This is what you're doing right now when you're rushing to buy these coins. Yes, you might have got a good entry if you got in yesterday early, but tell me what Quai is. If you bought Quai, tell me how it works. I would imagine that you can't because it's a pretty technical project and difficult to understand. So let's understand exactly what it's all about. Right now, $39.5 million. Quai Network is a layer 1, but a proof of work layer 1. And I know, you're like, another layer 1? But let's have a think for a moment. What is lacking in crypto? What's crypto all about? What was the first cryptocurrency and what was it designed to be? Well, Bitcoin was basically the first crypto designed by Satoshi Nakamoto, who was talking about a peer-to-peer digital cash system to break away from traditional finance. And yet, Bitcoin isn't really suitable for this because the transaction speeds are far too slow, also expensive to do transactions, isn't really a suitable peer-to-peer digital cash solution. So we've heard a number of these starting to rise up over the past few years. We saw Casper a couple of years ago and others, but none of which have really managed to achieve what was Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision. And Quai Network could be the closest one to achieving that. It's a bold statement, but stick with me. So Quai Network, unlike others, is a proof-of-work blockchain, and it's designed to be decentralized, independent, and uncontrollable, not being able to be controlled by any particular group of people. When we look at proof-of-stake blockchains, people are able to have much more influence by buying a huge amount of that token, staking it, and then having the right to be able to impact the way that that blockchain's working. On the flip side, proof-of-work is basically through miners, and various different miners which are working all the time to try and solve the equation. As you see with Bitcoin, this is what creates the blockchain, and and is effectively what is best for decentralization because it's run by an algorithm rather than someone who's just got lots and lots of money. Now, Kwai Network was built originally to compete with Visa. It's been engineered over the past 7 years to be able to achieve similar scalability. Right now, it's been able to prove that it carried out over 50,000 transactions per second. And with Kwai currently working on a multi-chain variant where they use different shards, there is a potential in the future to reach around 255,000 transactions per second, which is obviously absolutely insane. But you know, transactions per second, there's loads and loads of different blockchains right now that are incredibly fast. So what really separates Kwai from everyone else? Is it the fact that Kwai Network is also EVM compatible, which many other blockchains out there aren't, meaning that it can integrate with the Ethereum ecosystem as well as Bitcoin and other products? Is it the fact that you can run smart contracts on Kwai while you can't on other proof-of-work blockchains like Casper? Well, no. There's one thing and one thing alone that I think separates Kwai Network from all the other blockchains out there, and it's that it has two separate tokens. Is that it has Kwai, which is a deflationary token designed to be a store of value in the same way that Bitcoin is over time. Also, it has another token called Chi, which is a flat coin, kind of like a stable coin, but it does fluctuate a little bit. Now, there's a problem with stablecoins right now, like USDT, USDC, and it's that they're all linked to the value of the dollar. So if we expect over the next year the dollar to lose around 15% of its purchasing power, then holding USDT has exactly the same problem as that. We're going to lose money by holding these tokens. On the flip side, Chi is the token for peer-to-peer transactions on the Kwai network. So Kwai token is used for gas and fees on the network, as well as a store of value, and the Chi token is used as a peer-to-peer payment solution. And the price of this, unlike being linked to the dollar, is actually linked to the energy prices for producing the hashes for the network. Okay, so the harder the network's working, the higher the Chi price. The lower the network's working, the lower the Chi price. Get the point? And yes, it does fluctuate a bit, but it stays fairly steady. Not completely stable, but fairly steady. So why is this such a big deal? Why do we really even care about having a peer-to-peer cashless system? Well, there's a lot of countries around the world that are struggling from hyperinflation. Yeah, the dollar's going down 15% per year in terms of the ability to pay for certain things, but in other countries like Turkey, Argentina, Nigeria, etc., there is huge hyperinflation where the government is just printing more and more money every day, meaning that after a week, you could actually be losing value on your money. These people are desperate to find another solution, and using the USDT, while better, doesn't necessarily give them what they're looking for. Now, if you've been subscribed to my channel, you'll know I'm all about scalability, or the ability to onboard masses of people into the networks. Just something that you need to think about here. Take a city around the world. Let's say Istanbul or Bangalore, or a city that's starting to adopt crypto much more aggressively. If you were to say 20% of Istanbul was to start using a peer-to-peer payment solution rather than using Visa, like Kwai, in terms of transactional volume, you would be looking at about 10x the entire crypto market for transactions. I'm talking USDT transactions, etc. Just think about that for a moment. That's just one city having 20 to 30% adoption. Imagine this happening on a worldwide scale, or at least across a number of countries where there's hyperinflation right now. This is where you can start to see real value and opportunity, because Kwai also allows you to build smart contracts. And any particular ecosystem that has that volume of people and transactions running through it will attract lots of developers to start building on chain. This is a pretty exciting project, and it's currently worth $40 million, which is absolutely insane. Bearing in mind that Casper in the past got up to $5 billion, and it can't even host a smart contract, has one coin, doesn't have any ability to deal with stablecoins, etc. So from $40 million up to around Casper's market cap, which is currently $2.8 billion, and in the past has been up to $3 or $4 billion, that's nearly a 70 to 80x. Now obviously go away and do your own research into this, don't just jump on board, but there is a huge opportunity in this if they can really pull it off. Now there's lots of other coins out there that I'm also still very bullish on. If you're looking towards Sui and thinking, yeah, this is amazing, go and understand why Sui is amazing. It's partly because the team originally came from Facebook's Libra blockchain project. They then had huge growth on their ecosystem, they had a lot of projects starting to build, they then started to attract a lot of investments leading to their TVL growth. I've talked about this in the past. Aptos is a team founded from very similar people who also came from that Libra project. It's also running on the Move programming language, which is the same as Sui, also has incredibly fast transactional speeds, is partnered with the likes of Amazon, Google, Microsoft, you name it. But unlike Sui, has sort of lagged behind a bit in terms of price. But I think that's all about to change, because if we look across to Aptos, you can see a big growth in the TVL, and if you look at the stablecoin market, the stablecoin volume increased by about $100 million just yesterday. And as you can see, it still sits down in this perfect range where you have that kind of decrease there, we can then see it starting to work on this arch, starting to break out here. I do think that Aptos could see some pretty aggressive moves in the coming days from around this area and offers a good opportunity. Despite having come up a little bit from lows, it's still a good few %100% away from its previous highs. Aptos is a decent large cap coin. Obviously, don't just have a portfolio full of tiny cap coins, because if the market does dip for whatever reason, you end up getting burned. Hold some larger caps, which are down at the bottom of their range, and you're going to be able to anchor yourself around those, then have some exposure to small caps to see some upside as well. And if you're already holding a crypto portfolio full of coins, don't be tempted, as I talk about new coins, to necessarily go and buy all of the ones I talk about, because you'll end up with too many. I'm going to talk about projects I hold, I don't hold over time, but I want to just draw attention to kind of the technology, the excitement that's building across crypto right now, and where the opportunities lie. So it's up to you to manage your own portfolio and not just copy me and do what I do, because you will get it wrong. Now, Aptos has a $3.6 billion market cap. I do believe a 10 to maybe 15x is possible in this bull market, but it's going to be fairly stable because it's at the bottom of this range. Obviously, these predictions are kind of just off the top of my head, based on kind of what other projects have done in previous cycles, projects that are similar to that particular one now, and basically what that team is working on, the adoption, etc. It's all a bit of a guessing game, but you know, this is as educated a guess as I can offer. Now, next up, one that I've been incredibly bullish on for a very long time that's just been underperforming from the price action, but I do think we'll see some of the best upside, is Aether, powerful GPU compute solutions on demand. One of the biggest bottlenecks across AI development, which we know is increasing all the time because AI is the most in-demand service worldwide right now, is the compute solution, the compute power that drives the development of these projects. If you want to build a large language model like ChatGPT, then it could cost you millions of dollars. Previously, you had to use data from Amazon and other companies like that, but now Aether, with its partnership with NVIDIA, has access to over 20,000 different H100 GPUs, which are incredibly expensive GPUs from NVIDIA that are pretty much essential for building AI projects. And Aether pretty much is the only one who has access to such a large number of these GPUs. And why, if you look into the Aether dashboard, you can see that this coin, which currently has a $303 million market cap, has an annual revenue of $113 million. Total compute hours delivered. Huge. This is a company that is literally doing what it set out to do. This is so rare in crypto, to have a project making this much revenue, delivering a service that is massively in demand and expected to do a 14x. I'm talking about the service demand at 14x by 2030. Just imagine the potential of a company like this that currently sits there with a relatively small market cap, still offers a pretty decent entry, having kind of ran all the way down from here, currently is doing the same thing again. You can see this pattern, right, guys? It's exactly the same every single time. We see it here, it rallies down, it rounds off, and then it starts to move back up. This is the Doge pattern, okay? Go and look at this Doge chart on the daily. Go and look back to last March in 2024. Look at this, like, decline, rounded base, rallies. Decline, rounded base, rallies. And once we have a more sustained bull market coming up very soon, over the rest of this year, this is going to rally far beyond this. This is just Dogecoin, by the way. Obviously, our other altcoins will probably massively outperform Doge. In terms of where Aether is right now, looking at other kind of GPU providers that just aren't really on the same level, but have massive market caps in comparison, like a Cash and whatever, you can anticipate that Aether's got a 20x probably in the bag, possibly more. And it's going to be able to survive the bear market, and it's going to come back even stronger into the future as the demand on its service only continues to increase and the delivery of this service only continues to increase as well. I'm sure as well you would likely see a project like Aether that has this much money in the bank starting to buy back into tokens, investing in marketing, and blowing this thing wide open. Now, another one that I think is another really key area to look is real world assets. And guys, I will over the next few weeks and months make more videos about AI, about real world assets. I know people get down below and they're like, oh, well, what about this token? What about this token? There's so many cryptos out there. So many of them are going to make lots of money. These are just ones that I'm really interested in because they have a unique kind of twist on what they're doing, and they're really delivering real world value that gets me excited, okay? This is Bricken, where you can tokenize and trade any financial instrument. Just think about this for a moment. If you want to go and start to invest in housing and you need to be able to raise some funds, you might have a housing company or a building company. You can raise funds by creating a token and selling those tokens to individuals so that they can invest in your company. It's kind of like having the ability to float onto the stock market, having an IPO, but for much smaller companies. This is a great way for people to raise more money. It's a great way for you to be able to invest in different kind of businesses without having to buy the entire business. You don't have to buy an entire house to be able to benefit from the rental because you could tokenize a particular house or a hotel or whatever. This is very cool. Bricken, you can see, has already tokenized for various different companies, $300 million worth of value. You can see they have $14 million value locked and 16 countries already seeing tokenized products. They're already registered with the EU and they're building out a lot more products and partnerships soon to come. Looking into this particular area, you can see that if you don't know anything about coding or anything, that's okay. If Pump Fund is for building meme coins incredibly easily, Bricken is for building tokenized assets incredibly easily. Now, I met up with the team in Dubai to talk about what's happening with Bricken, and I mentioned this kind of like relationship between Pump Fund, and they really didn't like that. But you know what I mean. Very, very cool product. And in fact, looking across to the charts, considering that Bricken sits there with a $16.9 million market cap, it's really very, very early on into its expansion phase. If we were to look at this, we would say that it's probably moving up into kind of phase 3 of our recovery, but because it sits there with such a small market cap right now, I still think there's some really good upside to come, particularly with upcoming partnerships, upcoming announcements. Obviously, I got to benefit from meeting them in Dubai and understanding a little bit more what's going on behind the scenes, but this is a really interesting one to look at because real world assets will be huge and it's a unique spin into the real world asset space. So where does Bricken go? 20x? 30x? Who knows? Crypto is a very interesting beast, and when we start to see this market expanding, you could see some incredibly aggressive growth, particularly from these smaller coins that are getting massive adoption already. Now on to the next one, into the gaming niche, because I think it's good to have a bit of gaming exposure, real world assets, AI, and I made a video on AI coins the other day, so if you want to go and check out that, where I talked about the likes of WorldCoin, Humans AI, also a new one, Antics, and I probably should have mentioned Sensei as well, then you'll also have a bit of exposure to that. But this is Metade, which is a gaming ecosystem coin. I think gaming ecosystems are very, very powerful to be involved in. Now, again, I met the team from Metade in Dubai, and they are building the home of gaming and AI on Base. They are one of very few who've been partnered with Base Chain to be able to deliver a specific dApp chain, which means they basically have their own chain powered by the Metade token, which is the only gaming kind of ecosystem on Base. So, what is Metade? Basically, it's a kind of digital arcade where builders can come in and build their games out with the support of the Metade team and then go and launch their games. If they launch their games successfully, they'll be launched on the Metade chain and they'll be using the Metade token for gas, etc., which obviously will take away from the token supply, and that ultimately will disrupt the supply and demand model and should appreciate the price. And because of that link with Base, which is obviously part of Coinbase, who knows? Maybe that means somewhere down the line we see some sort of Coinbase listing, but just now that's just speculation, okay? We just see that they are doing a lot of interesting things within the space. Coming down, you can see that they are already partnered up with a lot of different games. They partnered up with Superverse, which is Elliott Trade's gaming ecosystem as well. And you can see that they're also having real-world tournaments. There's games, etc. being featured over here all the time, and they are giving away real-world prize money. But one of the coolest things that I've seen more recently is the AI agent powered interaction. You can in fact go and listen to this podcast between two AI agents talking about gaming, and into the future you could be interacting with different AI agents playing games, etc., not necessarily having to rely on real people. So pretty cool what they're kind of looking into. Huge amount of development going on behind the scenes, and yet once more coin sits there quite quietly, relatively small market cap right now, around $17 million. Now, whilst not available on Coinbase or Binance or anything, you can see it is listed on Bitunix, which is listed down below in the description. If you want to access pretty much any of the tokens I've talked about today, you can find them all on either Bitunix or WEEX. If you sign up for both of these exchanges, linked down below, then not only will you get a significant bonus, but you will also be able to trade a lot of different coins with low fees and no requirement for KYC. I have been working with these teams a very long time, so I get much bigger discounts than other creators out there. Therefore, if you want to go and create another account so that you can get an additional bonus, then make sure you go and do that through those links down below so that you can get the biggest bonus possible. Okay, so let's rattle on through. Have a quick look at the Metade chart. You can see had a significant growth phase back in December. Look at the expansion as soon as people started to enter back into the markets. Metade has a very strong community of followers who are very supportive of it, and I do see that this being a very important thing going forward. As you can see, again, trending down. Where do we kind of fit on here? Are we at number 1, number 2? I would say this is probably into the kind of 2 phase, maybe 3. As you can see, there's not like an exact science behind it, but if you're getting in somewhere down here, after seeing a bit of recovery, price recovery, you're in a much better place because you know it's not just going to continue to drip to zero. You don't want to necessarily be investing in coins right now that are just sort of doing this, okay? Because that's a dangerous place to be. You want to see at least some buying pressure starting to get restored, and then times are going to look good. Metade, from this current valuation, what, $17 million? Can it push towards $200, $300 million? Maybe even more? Is there a 50x behind this? Maybe even more? I don't see why not, to be honest. I think gaming is going to blow up like crazy. Projects that are really building real-world utility, onboarding games, key partnerships with base chain, etc. Bit of a no-brainer to me. Now jumping back to the portfolio, just to have a quick look. There are a lot of projects here. If you click on year, you're going to see where the best value is still to be made. Okay, there's some I haven't mentioned today. I just don't have enough time. I want to keep this video relatively short, but focus. Not only on that chart pattern, not only on having a small market cap, but focus on projects that are building real stuff that people are really using and showing adoption. This is where the key is to everything. Okay, there's others here, still pretty bullish on. Okay, but personally, holding a big bag of SUI, I'm happy to just keep that growing like that. I will be looking in more detail to the likes of Based AI, rTrade, ZigChain, Netmind, Humans AI, all the others that are on this list right now. So if I haven't mentioned them, don't panic. Okay, I will get in and have a look at these at some point soon when I get the chance. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video, found it useful. If you're watching this video and you're finding it overwhelming and you're not really sure like which cryptos you should be in and not really sure what to be doing, then I recommend joining the Moon House, which is linked down below in the description. In this group, myself and 2 other full-time crypto experts are working every single day to be able to answer your questions, to be able to provide altcoin alerts. Here was some calls just the other day for Ondo, Beam, Pendle, Peak, all of which are now pumping up like crazy since that call was made on the 7th of April. On that dip, on that day where everyone was panicking and worried, we were aping into all of these different coins, and since then we've seen some really significant gains. Every single week as well, we host a live Zoom call where I take you through all of the different research I'm doing. I talk about the coins I'm so bullish on right now, the ones that I'm personally investing in, the ones that I've been looking into, the new project launches, all this other stuff. If you really want to up your game in crypto, follow along and ask questions whenever you want, then make sure you jump across to the Moon House. It's linked down below in the description. Go and check out some of the reviews over there. Huge amount of 5-star reviews from people who are very happy from using it. Guys, hope you enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Thank you so much for watching on a weekend. Of course, hit the like button if you've got this far through. Leave a comment down below. Tell me whether you hold any of the coins I've been talking about. Tell me which coins I should be looking at that I'm missing out on my portfolio. And obviously, if you haven't already, then subscribe to keep up to date with all of the latest happening in these crypto markets and how to really make some serious gains in this bull market ahead. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.